Meditation on the larger Catechism of the Orthodox Presbyterian Church. We are looking at question number 120. Question number 120, which reads as follows. What are the reasons annexed to the fourth commandment, the more to enforce it? The answer is that the reasons annexed to the fourth commandment, the more to enforce it, are taken from the equity of it, God allowing us 6 days of 7 for our own affairs, and reserving but one for himself. In these words, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. From God's challenging a special propriety in that day, the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. From the example of God, who in 6 days made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. And from that blessing which God put upon that day, not only in sanctifying it to be a day for his service, but in ordaining it to be a means of blessing to us in our sanctifying it. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. We've seen that God provides motivations for his people to follow him, encouragements to obey, and threats upon disobedience. God also provides reasons. He appeals not only to our wills and emotions, but also to our minds, showing us how it is good, reasonable, right to provide this worship to the Lord. And so here the Catechism focuses on the reasons that are attached to this fourth commandment to enforce it. God uses every aspect of our hearts and minds to appeal to us, to urge us to do that which is not only right and good, but also for our well-being. And so the Catechism addresses these reasons given to us, and it highlights 4 of them for us that we ought to give some attention to. The first of these reasons is in the general equity of the arrangement that God has made with us. He is the Lord, the creator of the heavens and the earth. He has arranged all things according to his will. It could have been his will to demand every day from us in worship and service and praise, or at least a greater portion of the week in that regard. But no, God has been pleased to give us 6 full days of work to attend to all of our business, and simply to reserve 1 day to himself. And so therefore there's a certain equity involved in the arrangement. You might note that the commandment does provide an incentive or encouragement, and even command, to work 6 days. God does not want his people to be lazy, to be indolent, to just care only for themselves, but we ought to provide activities for ourselves to do all of our work within those 6 days. That doesn't mean that if you are retired that you need to be going out finding another job, but those who are retired still have responsibilities within the home for each other and so forth that they need to attend to. And those need to be accomplished within the first 6 days of the week. So the commandment implicitly implies what used to be called the Puritan work ethic, the responsibility that we have before God to labor in our calling before the Lord 6 days over the course of the week, to accomplish to do all of our work for our own affairs, providing for our homes, our families, taking care of the property, and so forth. God has reserved 1 day for himself. Secondly, the Catechism notes the special propriety that God places on this day. In other words, his own sense of ownership of the seventh day, or the Sabbath day, the Lord's day now in the New Covenant period of time. The Lord is the owner of this day. He is the Lord of the Sabbath. And so he has a right to receive our worship and adoration and service over the course of this day. Yes, he is the Lord of the 6 days of the week as well. We don't simply go out and do as we please during those first 6 days of the week. But in the Lord's Day, the Sabbath, God has a special ownership of that. And He tells us to put aside all the other cares of the week so that we might focus on Him and draw near to Him. God not only reasons with us with regard to the equity of the command and His special propriety in our observance of that, but also God provides us with His own example. He sets the example for us in His own work activity. And of course, Moses takes us back not simply to various events in the course of Israel's history, but back to the creation of the world in 6 days. And I believe those are 6 24-hour periods of time. That would set the pattern for us very nicely. In 6 days, God created the heavens and the earth, but on the 7th day, He rested from all His work. It's interesting, if you look at the pattern of those 6 days, they start with God's plan, let there be light, and then God's work, and then God made the lights, and then God's approval of it. He saw that it was good. And so that provides kind of a pattern for our work. We plan out our work, we work our work through the course of the day, and then we don't finish until we can look back and say, it is good, it's finished, I completed it. We check it out, make sure everything is right. Then we move on. That's the pattern for 6 days, but on the 7th day, God rests. And you don't see this plan set forth where God's speech, and then His work, and then His making things, and then His seal of approval on the day. He rests. And He gives that pattern for us. A day to put aside the work of the week and to give ourselves entirely to Him. Incidentally, that reminds us that on the Sabbath day, we should reflect the character of God. We are being made in God's image. And the effect of the ministry of God's Word and fellowship with Him is to transform us such that we will live following His example. Working 6 days, resting the 7th, and in all other ways, replicating God in His work in the world today. His righteousness, His love, His grace, and so forth. Sunday is a special day when we are made more completely in His image. And then finally, God reasons with us to observe the 7th day because it's a day which has His special blessing. It's a day that's blessed above them all. A day in which God draws near to us and in which we draw near to Him. And in this way, God ministers to our spiritual needs and our physical needs as well. The body needs rest. You can't just work and work and work and expect that your body will continue to function properly over time. You will wear down. God sees both mentally, physically, we need rest. And He blesses us with this one day. And so, as I said, I think on the previous week, enjoy the Lord's Day. Take advantage of the blessing God has for you. Enjoy a day of rest. And enjoy it best by approaching the Lord in His worship.